Hello, and welcome to the latest edition of the Superintendent Update, our chance to talk to Superintendent Eric Conti about everything that's going on in the school system. And obviously there's a lot going on this year, so let's get started. Eric, thanks for joining us once again.
Hey, Rich.
So we're a little over a month into the school year. How have things, been going?
I think they've been going really well if you look at how things were set up and what our priorities and values were going into the year. So we really started off or have everything designed with safety first. I think then we were secondarily worried about the social emotional learning, social emotional sort of state of our students and staff. And then it was really academics that came in as sort of a third priority, where normally obviously safety is always first, but academics are usually are very, are right there next to it. So I think given those three values, I think that we've been able to keep students in school. Had you asked me in August if we would still be in school approaching November 1st, I would have probably given you a 50-50 answer.
Yeah.
We always talked as a planning team that November 1st would be a real win for us because of all the effort that we were putting in. We didn't want to just do 2 weeks and then have to close. So I'd say things from the sort of safety and social emotional perspective are going well. I also think the academics are coming along, but we really didn't design our schedules to prioritize academics at first. And I think that's some of the feedback that we're getting from parents. They want to see kids in school more. I think now that we have the logistics sort of figured out. And so we're going to be looking at ways to continue to expand, to have students in-person learning, have their in-person learning expanded moving forward.
Excellent. Now I know that there have been some, positive cases among either students or faculty members. What's the procedure when that happens?
I think it depends on the individual case, but first of all, what I would say is that the cases that we have had to date, and fingers and toes crossed, we have not had any cases where that we can trace the spread back to the school itself.
Right.
So we're not seeing sort of school-to-school spread or spread within schools. I think that's due to the safety precautions, the masks, the social distancing, the hand washing. We are seeing community cases come into school, not seeing school cases sort of spreading out into the community. And I think that's been what other districts and other states have experienced as well. So I think there was a fear in the summer that schools would be organizations that contributed greatly to the spread of the virus, and that just hasn't proven to be the case. Now, what happens when a child is identified as being sick if they've been in school? And many of the cases we've had, parents have had the children home already, which is the exact right thing to do. If there's someone who is already infected in the home, if the child is symptomatic, there are things that we've shared with parents in terms of our parent handbook, where if they're seeing those, they keep their child home, then the child may be a positive case, but that positive case may not impact the rest of the school where the child attends. If the child is in school during an infectious time or 48 hours prior to, which is the sort of designated time that there is a positive result, then we contact trace. And that's when we have seating charts for classrooms. We go over the student schedules. We identify all the close contacts to that student, and all the families are contacted. And then those students are kept out of school for 10 to 14 days, depending on the guidance from the Board of Health.
Okay. So it seems like there's a lot of protocols in place, and that for the most part people are abiding by them?
Yes, and again, I think during the school day the protocols are certainly being followed. I think when there is a positive case, we are following those protocols, and some areas, our standards in Burlington are higher than what's even recommended in regards to to close contacts and other things. I think where we're seeing breakdowns in sort of safety precautions or cautions just about the virus itself would be outside of school in the community. And we just hopefully, I know it's tiring and people get, it's called COVID fatigue, which is a real
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely.
We just have to continue to ask families and all community members to continue to practice caution, and that allows the schools to stay open longer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we might all be tired of it, but that doesn't matter. So you had a survey go out recently. What were some, about, the opening of the school year? What were some of the big takeaways from that, from the response you've gotten so far?
I think we did a family, a staff, and a student survey. I think if you asked me what the real sort of wow was for me was we had probably 75% of the students who responded. The survey just went out to middle and high school students, were high school students. And a very large percentage of them expressed that they were feeling more stressed than they had last year. So again, social emotional concerns were a big part of how we tried to structure things this year, and were certainly an area of focus for us. So I think some of the feedback from the students about their stress and anxiety in terms of returning to school and what they're experiencing, I think that was something that stood out in the survey. I think that we got other very useful information. I think our staff were commenting that the technology that they have been provided by the district doesn't necessarily wasn't designed for the tasks that we're asking them to do right now in terms of large-scale video conferencing, video teaching. The tools that they have now, the Chromebooks, weren't really designed to do that, so we have to look to try to remedy that for our teachers. I think parents, by and large, felt like the opening went well, that we did it safely, and I think now, especially the hybrid parents, again, the middle and high school parents, where we are going sort of cohort A, cohort B, where we have the school divided in half. I think they're expressing some dissatisfaction with the days the students aren't in school personally, with the remote days. So I think we need to continue to work on our schedules and make adjustments, but there's only so much we can do while maintaining social distancing, mask wearing, and hand washing. So we don't want to erode all the safety precautions we have in place.
Right.
And so the hybrid schedules are really a compromise, and they were a compromise, again, designed with the 3 priorities that I mentioned before. But I think as we get our routines down and people become more comfortable, then they want to see more of a focus on academics, and I think that's normal.
Makes sense. Now, you mentioned the hybrid. So some families decided to go hybrid, some families decided to go full remote at the beginning of the year. Initially, there was going to be a possible change to that, probably like next week or so. But recently, you announced at a school committee meeting that because of just logistics, that that sort of switch probably would be delayed. Could just talk about the reasoning behind that.
Well, again, initially, Rich, we had about 80% of our families wanting students in person, about 20% wanting fully remote, and I think we're able to accommodate sort of everyone in how we design things. I think I initially thought that we would have more room or space to have students sort of come and go into either option, but we were really maxed out. Again, at the elementary level in particular, we had to build a whole remote academy. We had to hire many more staff members. Just our remote academy itself, I think, has 22 classroom teachers plus some specialists. So it's a staff of, it's about the size of Pine Glen or even a little bit bigger. So I'm saying it's a whole separate school unto itself. And so if we were to have major shifts in the students in terms of choosing to go back into schools or come back out into remote, we'd have to move teachers. If students were choosing to go back into schools, part of the reason we can have the elementary kids in 5 days a week is because 400 of the students are choosing to be fully remote. That gave us more room in the schools to create the social distancing that we needed. So I guess what I underestimated was the amount of redesign it would take to accommodate the requests. Now, we have made some adjustments. I think we're looking at sort of individual cases. We just can't do any large-scale changes. Luckily, we're not getting large-scale requests. So
good.
I think we're not meeting everyone's needs, obviously, but we're hoping as we make some changes, as people get more comfortable, probably mid-year is when we'll do more of a significant full schedule change. So we might look to sort of add more time to the elementary day. We'll make some changes in the middle and high school schedule for the second half of the year. And then people, probably around mid-year is when we'll ask people to, if they want to readjust, we can make the readjustments there. We didn't want to disrupt the relationships that we were trying to build, again, in the first couple months, just in case we have to shut down and go fully remote by rearranging everything in November.
Right.
So I think that's why we had to take a step back. And as I said, I think I underestimated the amount of disruption that would be caused by making those changes.
Right, it'd be kind of like restarting over like a month and a half in.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be difficult. Now, I know at the school committee meeting this week, there was a transportation update was on the agenda. I haven't actually watched the meeting yet, but any update on what the busing situation is?
You missed a compelling meeting.
I'm sure I did. I'm going to watch it probably this afternoon.
Yeah, sure. Right. You should watch it right before bed. It'll put you to sleep. So, no, I think transportation is going very well. I think Bob Cuna said we have some sort of hiccups like we always do. I think we're still trying to figure out routes. But I think the schools have done a great job making sure that seating charts are in place, because the contact tracing I mentioned at the first part of the interview, when there is a student identified as positive, if that student rides the bus, then we also have to contact trace on the bus as well. So students need to have assigned seats, and they need to follow the protocols. We have some people who are watching the buses, which is great, and they see students sitting together. And I just want to remind people that we are allowed to have siblings sit together. So if there are clusters of kids, hopefully they're siblings. That's what should be happening. I'm not saying every child is doing exactly what they wanted. One reminder, just in case parents are seeing this, is as the weather gets colder, the bus windows are still going to need to be cracked. So I would just make sure that you're sending your child on the bus with enough warm layers, because the windows are going to have to stay, again, not wide open, but they're going to need to be open somewhat throughout the winter season. So we'll talk about that.
Bundle up.
Bundle up.
And kind of looking ahead to the next few months, what are some of the big considerations that you're looking at?
Well, I think also, again, at the school committee meeting, the school committee approved a job description for a new position that was approved at town meeting. That was the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Okay, so I won't get ahead of you, so I'm saying that was exciting. That's going to be a focus in the next few months in terms of getting that position out and trying to come in. I think in the next few months as well, we're going to continue to look at air quality. So not only measuring air quality, but also what we mentioned in the fall is as the weather gets colder and people can't keep their windows open, we have to make sure that the air exchanges in the classrooms stay the same. So we're going to be supplementing the univents, the units that we currently have that we have been supplementing with open windows. We're going to be supplementing their function with HEPA filters. So, and so we're really trying to make sure that we're putting every precaution in place so that schools can stay open as long as they can. And so we'll have a lot of classroom environmental focus over the next few months as well.
Excellent. And yeah, and just to end, so as you mentioned, town meeting approved funds for the Director of Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging. So somebody to sort of help with the diversity in the school system. So what are the next steps moving forward on that?
Well, again, the title, we sort of adjusted the title back, so it's the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
Oh, it's back to inclusion.
Back to what it was. So again, the belonging is now more into the job title. And I'm sorry, the question was, what's the status of that?
Or what's the next steps moving forward?
Next steps would be to put together a hiring committee and to get out and try to promote the job and to get as many qualified candidates to apply to come to Burlington as possible, and then start the interview process. Again, what would be typical for us would be in the new calendar year. So we'd want to get the committee put together, trained, questions developed, have the job advertised, begin to have people respond to the advertisement, and then cull through the applicants and begin the interview process sort of early in 2021. So that would be the process, and then see when they're available. The town meeting funds are available for this fiscal year, so if the individual that we hire, if we do that prior to June 30th and they're available and not under contract, then we would have the opportunity to bring them in as soon as possible, which is exciting. And then if not, we'll work out all those details before. But as I said, the impetus for the position, even though we had discussed it for several years, really came from an equity committee group, which had
Right.
members of the community, members of our staff, administration, and students who took a real leadership position in this too. It was really impressive, and it's also very humbling. You know, Rich, I'm used to, you know, forwarding these ideas myself, and now when you have this group coming up with even better ideas that you can come up with, it's you have to, you know, make sure that you swallow your pride and that you listen and that you make sure you meet these needs. And I think this position will be really great for the district and really helpful. And again, I'm have a lot of gratitude for the people who've put it a lot of time into to do this and to make sure that sort of equity conversations about race and institutional bias don't sort of fall off the agenda, even though there's a pandemic, even though, because there's always something that comes up. And
Right.
I think having this position have a constant focus and having it be their priority will help us make better progress.
Yeah, and if people want to learn more about the position, we had a whole hour with Sarah Shake and Martha Duffield, and Sarah, especially the student, very impressive person. So it was a great conversation.
Again, real leader, and she's really demonstrating leadership in this area and in other areas. So again, I think it's humbling in one sense, but really impressive to see and to witness. So I'm happy that she's helping make the district better.
Yeah, absolutely. And we look forward to kind of following that story as it progresses. Well, that's all we have for this month. I appreciate you coming in once again, and hope for all the best for November and as we kind of enter into the colder seasons.
We will. Rich, as always, thank you, and we'll do as many updates as we need to try to keep people informed. So again, thank you for your role in helping.
Absolutely.